Is someone there?
The words came out broken, barely a whisper, and Cole Harrison froze in the doorway of the 47th floor executive suite, his mop still dripping onto the pristine marble floor. He had worked at Hayes Tower for nearly 2 years now, and in all that time, he had never once seen anyone on this floor after 9 o'clock at night, let alone heard someone crying in the darkness of the CEO's private office. But there she was. Victoria Hayes, the most powerful woman in Manhattan, sat crumpled on the floor beside her massive mahogany desk, her stunning red cocktail dress pooled around her like spilled wine. Her blonde hair, usually styled to perfection, hung loose and disheveled around her tear-streaked face, and mascara ran in dark rivers down her cheeks. In her hand, she clutched what remained of her phone, the screen shattered into a spider web of cracks, as if she had thrown it against the wall with every ounce of strength she possessed. Cole stood, paralyzed, his maintenance uniform suddenly feeling like a spotlight, announcing his presence in a place he clearly did not belong. He was invisible in this building, had always been invisible. Just another worker pushing a cart through marble hallways, while executives walked past without ever seeing his face. And now here he was, witnessing the CEO of Hayes Enterprises in her most vulnerable moment. Victoria looked up and their eyes met. For a fraction of a second, raw devastation flickered across her features, the kind of pain that came from somewhere deep and private and never meant to be seen. Then embarrassment flooded her face, her jaw tightening as she scrambled to compose herself, wiping frantically at her cheeks as if she could erase the evidence of her breakdown. "I apologize," she said, her voice cracking despite her efforts to sound professional. "You should not have seen that. Please just leave and pretend this never happened." Cole opened his mouth to respond, to apologize for intruding, to back away, and return to his cart, and forget he had ever climbed these stairs to check the executive floor heating vents. But before a single word could escape his lips, the lights flickered violently above them. Once, twice, and then a massive boom shook the entire building, rattling the floor-to-ceiling windows and sending a cascade of papers flying from Victoria's desk. The sound was like thunder, trapped inside a metal box, rolling and echoing through the empty hallways. And then everything went completely dark. Cole's heart slammed against his ribs as emergency lights kicked on throughout the suite, bathing everything in an eerie red glow that made the shadows seem alive. Through the massive windows, he could see the city below, plunging into blackness, block by block, like dominoes falling in slow motion. The blizzard that meteorologists had predicted for tomorrow had apparently decided to arrive early, and it had brought hell with it. His phone buzzed in his pocket, and Cole grabbed it with trembling hands, already knowing the message would be bad. Building lockdown initiated. Blizzard conditions. All exits secured. No one in or out until further notice. Power restoration estimated 6 to 8 hours. But it was not the lockdown that made Cole's blood run cold. It was the realization that crashed over him like a wave of ice water, stealing the breath from his lungs and making his knees nearly buckle. Mia, his 6-year-old daughter, was downstairs in the lobby, 47 floors below him, waiting with the night security guard for her daddy to finish his shift so they could go home and celebrate New Year's Eve together. She was alone down there, surrounded by strangers, probably scared out of her mind as the lights went out and the storm howled against the windows, and he was trapped up here with no way to reach her. Before we continue, please tell us, where in the world are you tuning in from? We love seeing how far our stories travel. Cole did not waste another second. He sprinted toward the stairwell door, his work boots pounding against the marble floor as he abandoned his mop and cart without a second thought. Nothing mattered except getting to Mia, holding her in his arms, telling her that Daddy was there and everything would be okay. But when he reached the stairwell, his heart sank. The door would not budge. He pulled harder, then pushed, then slammed his shoulder against the heavy metal with enough force to send pain shooting down his arm. Nothing. The emergency lockdown had sealed every exit in the building, trapping everyone exactly where they stood when the power died. No. Cole breathed, pounding his fists against the door. No, no, no. Mia. My daughter is downstairs. She is only 6 years old. She is alone. He was vaguely aware of footsteps behind him, of Victoria Hayes approaching, with her heels clicking against the floor despite the chaos. But he could not focus on anything except the metal barrier separating him from his little girl, the maintenance worker. Victoria's voice was quieter now, stripped of its usual commanding edge. What is your name? Cole Harrison. My daughter is in the lobby. I have to get to her. The elevators are dead, Victoria said, and Cole heard something unexpected in her tone. Not the cold detachment everyone at the company whispered about, but genuine concern. The stairwell doors lock automatically during emergencies to prevent panic evacuations in high-rises. They will not open until the system resets. Cole slammed his palm against the door one more time, a cry of frustration escaping his throat. Then how am I supposed to reach her? She must be terrified. She does not know where I am. Victoria was silent for a moment. Then she turned and walked briskly back toward her office, her torn stockings and disheveled appearance a stark contrast to the decisive click of her heels. Come with me. There is an emergency landline in my office that operates on a separate system. We can call security and check on her. Cole followed without hesitation, his desperation overriding any awkwardness about being alone with the CEO of the company. The emergency lights cast long shadows across Victoria's office as she moved to her desk and lifted an old-fashioned telephone receiver, punching in a series of numbers with practiced efficiency. "This is Victoria Hayes," she said when someone answered. "I need you to patch me through to the lobby security station immediately. There is a child down there. A little girl and her father is trapped on my floor. We need to confirm she is safe." Cole stood beside her close enough to hear the muffled response through the receiver, his hands clenched so tight his knuckles had gone white. The seconds stretched into eternity as Victoria weighted her fingers, drumming an impatient rhythm on the desk, and then her expression softened. She held the phone out to Cole. "Your daughter wants to talk to you." Cole grabbed the receiver like a drowning man grasping a lifeline. "Mia, baby, are you okay?" The small voice that answered made his eyes fill with tears. Daddy, where are you? All the lights went out, and it got really loud, and I could not find you anywhere." "I know, sweetheart. I know. Daddy is okay. I am upstairs in the building, but the doors are locked because of the storm. The nice security guards are going to take care of you until I can get down there, okay? But it is New Year's Eve." Mia's voice trembled. "You promised we would do the countdown together. You promised we would watch the fireworks." "I know I did, baby, and I am going to try my very best to get to you. But even if I cannot make it down there before midnight, I want you to know that Daddy is thinking about you every single second. You are the bravest astronaut I know, remember?" A tiny sniffle came through the phone. "Like Major Mia from our stories." "Exactly like Major Mia." "And what does Major Mia do when she is stuck on a space station waiting for rescue?" "She stays calm and drinks her hot chocolate and knows her daddy is coming for her." "That is exactly right." Cole's voice cracked despite his best efforts. "The security guards are going to get you some hot chocolate and blankets, and before you know it, this storm will pass, and Daddy will be right there. I love you more than all the stars in the sky, Mia. I love you more than all the moons, Daddy." When Cole finally handed the phone back to Victoria, his hands were shaking, and tears streamed freely down his face. He did not care that she saw him crying. He did not care about anything except the 47 floors of locked doors standing between him and his little girl. Victoria spoke quietly with security for another moment, arranging for Mia to be given blankets and snacks, and promising that she would personally ensure the child was looked after throughout the night. When she hung up, she turned to Cole with an expression he had never seen on her face before. "The guards say she is safe. They have set up a little nest for her behind the security desk with pillows and blankets. One of them has a daughter her age and knows exactly how to keep her calm." Cole nodded, unable to speak. And Victoria Hayes, the woman everyone called the Ice Queen, did something no one at Hayes Enterprises would have ever believed. She reached out and placed her hand gently on Cole's arm. "We are going to get through this night," she said softly. "And your daughter is going to be okay. I promise you that." The executive lounge adjacent to Victoria's office was nothing like Cole had ever seen. Plush leather couches lined the walls, a gas fireplace crackled in the corner, and a fully stocked bar gleamed with bottles that probably cost more than his monthly rent. Under normal circumstances, Cole would have felt completely out of place in such opulence, painfully aware of his worn maintenance uniform and calloused hands. But these were not normal circumstances. Victoria moved through the space with practiced ease, lighting candles she pulled from a cabinet, and adjusting the gas fireplace to provide more warmth as the building's heating system struggled without full power. The emergency lights had stabilized into a dim amber glow, but the temperature was already beginning to drop. "The backup generators will keep essential systems running," Victoria explained as she worked, "but the heating will only function at about 60% capacity. It is going to get cold in here before morning." Cole stood near the window, watching the snow pile against the glass with increasing ferocity. The blizzard had transformed Manhattan into a white blur, erasing the familiar skyline and making it impossible to see more than a few feet beyond the window. Somewhere down there, 47 floors below, his little girl was waiting for him. "Can I get you something to drink?" Cole turned to find Victoria standing near the bar, a bottle of expensive whiskey in her hand. She had removed her heels at some point, and without them, she seemed smaller. Somehow more human. The red dress that had probably cost thousands of dollars was wrinkled and stained with mascara, and her blonde hair fell in messy waves around her face. "No, thank you," Cole said automatically. "I should stay sharp in case Mia needs me." Victoria nodded, pouring a glass for herself instead. "Of course." She took a long sip, then gestured toward the leather couches. "Please sit down. There is no point in standing by the window all night. The storm is not going anywhere, and neither are we." Cole hesitated, acutely aware of the strange dynamics at play. This woman signed his paychecks. Well, not directly, but her signature was on the company letterhead, her face on the annual reports, her name on the building itself. She was Victoria Hayes' billionaire CEO, and he was Cole Harrison, the guy who mopped her floors. But exhaustion won over awkwardness, and Cole sank onto one of the leather couches with a heavy sigh. Victoria settled onto the opposite end, tucking her bare feet beneath her in a gesture that seemed almost girlish compared to her usual commanding posture. For a long moment, neither of them spoke, the only sounds the crackle of the fire and the howl of the wind outside. Cole studied her in the candlelight, truly seeing her for the first time. Without the armor of her power suits and perfectly styled hair, without the boardroom confidence and the entourage of assistants, she looked remarkably ordinary. Beautiful certainly, with delicate features and striking blue eyes, but ordinary in the way that any woman would look after crying her heart out on the floor of her office. And that reminded him. "The phone," Cole said quietly. "When I came in, you had thrown your phone against the wall." Victoria's hand tightened around her whiskey glass. "Yes, I did. I did not mean to pry. I heard you crying, and I wanted to make sure you were okay." A bitter laugh escaped her lips. "Okay. That is a complicated word, is it not?" She took another sip of whiskey. "I suppose you must be curious." The great Victoria Hayes, sobbing on her office floor, like a teenager with a broken heart. "It is none of my business," Cole said, and he meant it. "Whatever happened is your private matter." But Victoria shook her head, staring into the amber liquid in her glass. "No, you saw me at my worst. You deserve at least a partial explanation." She was quiet for a moment, then continued. "His name was Richard. We were engaged for 2 years. He left me 6 months ago for another woman. Tonight I received a text message informing me that he is getting married tomorrow. To her." Cole felt his chest tighten with unexpected sympathy. I am sorry. That is incredibly cruel. The cruelest part, Victoria said, is that he was right to leave. I was never present, never available. I canceled dinners and anniversaries and vacations because there was always another deal, another crisis, another reason why the company needed me more than he did. She looked up at Cole, her eyes glistening. He told me I was incapable of real love, that I would die alone, surrounded by my money and my power, and nothing else. That is not true, Cole said softly. Leaving someone because they work hard is not the same as leaving someone because they cannot love. Victoria smiled sadly. You are kind to say that, but you do not know me well enough to make that judgment. Maybe not, Cole admitted. But I know what I saw when you called security about my daughter. You did not have to do that. You could have told me to figure it out myself, that it was not your problem. Instead, you made it your priority. That does not seem like someone incapable of love. Something flickered in Victoria's eyes. Surprise mixed with something else Cole could not quite identify. She opened her mouth to respond, but before she could speak, the emergency phone in her office began to ring. Both of them jumped to their feet, the same fear written across their faces. Mia. The call was not about Mia. Victoria spoke with building management for several minutes, her brow furrowed as she listened to updates about the storm and the power situation. When she finally hung up, she turned to Cole with a mixture of relief and resignation. Your daughter is fine, still sleeping soundly on the security couch. The guards have been checking on her every 15 minutes. But the power restoration has been pushed back. They are now estimating 6 in the morning at the earliest, possibly later depending on the storm. Cole nodded, his shoulders sagging. 6 more hours. 6 more hours trapped in this penthouse while his little girl waited alone downstairs. Come, Victoria said, gesturing back toward the lounge. There is nothing we can do but wait. We might as well try to stay warm. They settled back onto the couches closer this time as the temperature in the room continued to drop. Victoria had found a stack of cashmere blankets in a closet, and she distributed them between them, wrapping one around her own shoulders like a shawl. Tell me about her, Victoria said suddenly. Your daughter. Mia. Cole felt his face soften at the mention of his child. She is 6 years old, has curly brown hair that refuses to be tamed, no matter how much I try to brush it. The biggest blue eyes you have ever seen. She is obsessed with space and rockets and wants to be an astronaut when she grows up. An astronaut, Victoria smiled. That is quite an ambition. She has had it since she was 4. We build model rockets together on weekends and launch them in the park. Cole's voice grew warm with the memory. She names every single one. The last one was called Star Chaser 3 because Star Chasers 1 and 2 crashed into Mrs. Patterson's garden. Victoria laughed, a genuine sound that transformed her entire face. And what does Mrs. Patterson think about that? She has started putting nets over her tomato plants. But she always invites Mia over for cookies afterward, so I think she secretly loves the excitement. The conversation flowed more easily after that, the barriers between CEO and maintenance worker slowly dissolving in the candlelight. Victoria asked about Mia's school, her favorite books, her friends. Cole found himself talking more than he had in months, sharing stories about bedtime routines and homework battles, and the endless parade of why questions that filled his days. And then Victoria asked the question Cole had been dreading. What about her mother? Is she in the picture? Cole's smile faded. He stared at the fire for a long moment, watching the flames dance and flicker. No, she passed away 2 years ago. Victoria's hand flew to her mouth. Oh, Cole, I am so sorry. I should not have asked. It is okay. Cole's voice was steady, though the pain beneath it was unmistakable. Her name was Sarah. We were high school sweethearts, married at 22. She was a pediatric nurse, the kindest person I have ever known. Everyone who met her fell in love with her. What happened? Car accident. Cole's jaw tightened. Drunk driver ran a red light. She died on impact. Mia was 4 years old. She still asks about her, sometimes wonders if Mommy can see her from heaven when she launches her rockets. Victoria was quiet for a long moment. Then, very softly, she said, "That is why you work here, is it not, as a maintenance worker? It is not what you trained for." Cole looked at her, surprised by her perception. "How did you know?" Victoria shrugged. "You speak like an educated man. Your hands are calloused from physical labor, but you carry yourself like someone who once wore a suit to work. And when you explained the building's emergency systems earlier, you understood exactly what I was talking about." Cole let out a long breath. "I was an engineer. Worked at a design firm downtown. Good salary, good benefits, good future. But the hours were brutal. 60, 70 hours a week sometimes. After Sarah died, I could not keep doing that and take care of Mia. She needed a parent who was actually present, not someone who came home after she was already asleep. So you took a pay cut to be there for her. I took a pay cut to be her father." Cole met Victoria's eyes. It was the easiest decision I ever made. Something shifted in Victoria's expression, a recognition, a respect that had not been there before. She looked at Cole Harrison, not as the janitor who mopped her floors, but as a man who had sacrificed everything for the people he loved. And in that moment, trapped together on the 47th floor, while a blizzard raged outside both of them, began to realize that this night was going to change everything. The emergency phone shattered the comfortable silence that had settled between them, its shrill ring echoing through the darkened office like an alarm. Cole was on his feet before the second ring, his heart hammering against his ribs as he rushed to answer. "Hello, this is Cole Harrison. Mr. Harrison." The security guard's voice was urgent but controlled. "We need you to talk to your daughter. She woke up about 10 minutes ago and she is having some kind of episode. We have tried everything, but she keeps asking for you, and she will not calm down." Cole's blood ran cold. "Let me talk to her. Put her on now." There was a shuffle, some muffled voices, and then a sound that made Cole's knees nearly buckle. Mia was crying. Not just crying, screaming. The kind of raw, desperate wails that Cole had not heard since the weeks after Sarah's funeral, when Mia would wake in the middle of the night, convinced that Daddy had disappeared too. Daddy Mia's voice was barely recognizable through her hysteria. "Daddy, I cannot breathe. I cannot breathe, and the lights are scary. And you are not here. And I want Mommy. I want Mommy." Cole pressed the phone against his ear, his own tears threatening to spill over. Baby, listen to Daddy's voice. I am right here. I am not gone. I am just upstairs in the building. Remember, we talked earlier." But Mia was too far gone to hear him. Her screams echoed through the phone, punctuated by gasping sobs that sounded like she was drowning in her own panic. Cole had seen this before, knew the signs of the night terrors that had plagued his daughter since Sarah's death. When the panic took hold, Mia could not hear. Reason, could not process. Comfort, could not do anything except ride the wave of terror until it finally released her. Cole began pacing his free hand, pulling at his hair in desperation. "Maya, sweetheart, please. Daddy needs you to take deep breaths. Can you do that for me? In through your nose, out through your mouth." But Mia's screams only intensified, and Cole could hear the security guards in the background, their voices strained as they tried and failed to help. Victoria appeared beside him, her face pale in the emergency lighting. "What is happening?" "Night terrors," Cole choked out. "She has had them since her mother died. When they hit, she cannot hear me. She cannot hear anything. I need to get down there. I need to hold her." But the stairs were still locked. The elevators were still dead. 47 floors of steel and concrete separated Cole from his terrified daughter, and there was absolutely nothing he could do. Then Victoria did something unexpected. She took the phone from Cole's trembling hand. Before he could protest, she was speaking to the security guard, her CEO voice cutting through the chaos with sharp authority. "This is Victoria Hayes. I need you to set up a video call through the building's internal security system. Route it to my office computer. I want visual contact with that child in the next 60 seconds. Cole stared at her. "What are you doing?" Victoria was already moving toward her desk, her fingers flying across the keyboard of her computer. The monitors flickered to life, and within moments, she had accessed the building's security network. If she cannot hear you through a phone, Victoria said maybe she can see you. Maybe that will help. The video feed appeared on the screen, and Cole felt his heart shatter into 1,000 pieces. Mia sat huddled in the corner of the security office, her small body curled into a ball, her arms wrapped around her knees as she rocked back and forth. Her face was red and swollen from crying, her curly brown hair plastered to her cheeks with tears. 2 security guards knelt nearby, their expressions helpless as they tried to offer comfort that Mia could not accept. Baby Cole said, stepping closer to the screen. Mia, look at the computer. Look at Daddy. But Mia would not look up. Her eyes were squeezed shut, her small hands pressed over her ears as if she could block out the entire world. Cole's voice broke. I do not know what to do. When she gets like this, I hold her. I rock her until it passes. But I cannot reach her from here. And then Victoria did something that no one at Hayes Enterprises would have ever believed. She began to sing. Her voice was soft at first, barely audible over Mia's cries. Off-key and uncertain, like someone who had not sung in years and was not quite sure she remembered how. But the melody was unmistakable. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Cole stared at her in shock. On the screen, Mia's screams began to falter. Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky, Victoria continued singing, her voice growing stronger with each line. She was not performing, not trying to impress anyone. She was simply offering the only comfort she knew how to give, a childhood lullaby from someone who had perhaps never been sung to herself. On the screen, Mia's rocking slowed. Her hands dropped from her ears. And slowly, very slowly, she looked up at the computer monitor. The pretty lady Mia whispered, her voice hoarse from crying. The pretty lady in the red dress. Victoria leaned closer to the camera, still singing softly. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Mia's tears were still flowing, but her breathing was beginning to steady. Miss Victoria. Hello, sweetheart, Victoria said gently, her voice cracking with emotion. Your daddy is right here beside me. We have been watching over you this whole time. Cole stepped into the frame, his face filling with desperate love. Hey, baby. Hey, my brave astronaut. Daddy is here. Can you see me? Mia nodded, her lower lip trembling. I got scared, Daddy. The dreams came back. The ones where you disappear like Mommy did. I know, sweetheart. I know. But look at me. Look at my face. Am I disappeared? No. That is right. I am right here. And Miss Victoria is with me. And we are both watching over you until we can be together again. Okay. Victoria spoke up again, her voice impossibly gentle for a woman known for her boardroom ferocity. Mia, can you do something for me? Can you breathe with me? We are going to take big breaths together, and for 4 counts out for 4 counts. Can you try? Mia nodded weakly. Okay. And Victoria breathed in slowly, counting on her fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, and out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Mia followed along, her small chest rising and falling as she matched Victoria's rhythm. In and out, in and out. With each breath, more of the panic drained from her features, replaced by exhaustion and lingering fear. After several minutes, Mia's eyes began to droop. I am tired, Daddy. I know you are, baby. It is okay to go back to sleep. The nice guards are going to stay right there with you and Miss Victoria, and I are going to watch over you from up here. You are safe. You are so safe. Will you still be there when I wake up? Cole's voice caught in his throat. I will always be here for you, Mia. Always. Now close your eyes and dream about rockets, okay? Mia's eyes fluttered shut, and within moments, her breathing had evened out into the deep rhythm of sleep. One of the security guards gently draped a blanket over her, giving the camera a thumbs up. Cole collapsed back into a chair, his entire body trembling with relief and residual terror. Victoria ended the video call and sat down beside him, her own hands shaking. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Cole turned to look at her. Truly look at her with eyes that saw past the CEO title and the designer dress and the billion-dollar empire. How did you know to do that? He asked. The singing, the breathing exercises. Victoria shook her head slowly. I have no idea. I have never sung to anyone in my life. Not since I was a child singing to my dolls because no one ever sang to me. It just felt right. You saved her tonight. Cole said, his voice thick with emotion. You brought her back from that dark place when I could not reach her. Victoria's eyes glistened with unshed tears. No, you are the one who saves her. Every single day. I just helped this once. Cole reached out and took her hand, holding it gently in both of his. Thank you, he whispered. Thank you, Victoria. And for the first time since they had been trapped together, Victoria Hayes smiled. A real smile. A beautiful smile. The smile of a woman who had just discovered that maybe, just maybe, she was capable of more than she had ever believed. The silence that followed was not awkward. It was sacred, like the hush that falls over a church after a powerful sermon. Cole and Victoria sat side by side on the leather couch, their hands still intertwined, both of them, processing the intensity of what had just happened. She has those episodes often, Victoria finally asked. Cole nodded heavily. They started after Sarah died. The therapist calls them night terrors with elements of separation anxiety. Mia has this deep fear that everyone she loves is going to disappear, and when she is asleep and cannot control her thoughts, sometimes the fear takes over completely. How do you usually calm her down? I hold her. Cole's voice was quiet. I wrap my arms around her and rock her and tell her that I am not going anywhere, that I will never leave her, that she is my whole world, and nothing in this universe could ever take me away from her. Victoria was silent for a moment. Then she said, Tell me about Sarah. Not how she died. Tell me who she was. Cole closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, they were filled with a distant warmth. Sarah was sunshine in human form. That is the best way I can describe her. She walked into a room, and everything got brighter. She laughed at my terrible jokes. She sang off-key in the shower. She burned dinner at least 3 times a week, but always convinced me that slightly charred was a flavor choice, not a mistake. She sounds wonderful. She was. Cole's voice grew thick. We met in high school. I was this awkward kid who did not know how to talk to girls, and she was this radiant creature who somehow saw something worth talking to. We dated through college, got married at 22. Everyone said we were too young, but we knew. We just knew. How long were you married? 8 years. Cole's jaw tightened. We tried to have children for most of that time. Years of fertility treatments of disappointment after disappointment. Every negative test felt like a little piece of us dying. And then finally, Mia came along. Our miracle baby. Sarah used to call her our little star because we conceived her the night of a meteor shower. Victoria smiled softly. That is beautiful. It was. Cole's expression darkened. And then everything changed. He was quiet for a long moment, staring at the dying fire. 2 years ago on New Year's Eve, Sarah went to a party at her friend's house. I was supposed to pick her up at midnight. We had this tradition of always kissing at midnight, no matter where we were or what was happening. It was our thing. What happened? Cole's hands clenched into fists. My supervisor called. There was an emergency at this building, actually. Pipes burst on the 10th floor. Water everywhere. They needed all hands on deck. I told Sarah I would be a little late, that she should take an Uber home and I would meet her there. Victoria's face had gone pale. She texted me at 11:47 p.m. Cole's voice cracked. She said, "Cannot wait to kiss you at midnight. Hurry home." I texted back that I was on my way. But I was not on my way. I was here, mopping up water, fixing pipes, doing my job. Oh, Cole. At 11:52 p.m., a drunk driver ran a red light at 47 miles an hour. He hit Sarah's Uber broadside. She died in the ambulance before they could even get her to the hospital. Cole's tears fell freely now. I was here when the police called, standing in a puddle of dirty water with a mop in my hand. They told me my wife was gone, and I was surrounded by mops and buckets, and I could not even remember the last thing I said to her in person. Victoria's hand tightened around his. It was not your fault. Everyone says that, Cole said bitterly. But do you know what haunts me every single day? If I had not taken that shift, I would have been driving. I would have seen the drunk driver. I would have swerved. I would have done something. Instead, I chose work over my wife, and she died alone in the back of a stranger's car. Victoria was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. We tell ourselves we are building something, making sacrifices for the future, choosing responsibility over presence because it is the right thing to do. She paused. But what if we are just running? What if all our dedication and ambition is just a way to avoid facing the things that really matter? Cole looked at her, really looked at her, and saw his own pain reflected in her eyes. Is that what Richard said to you? Among other things, Victoria admitted. He said I was married to my company, that I used work as a shield against real intimacy, that I would rather close a deal than open my heart. Was he right? Victoria was silent for a long moment. Then, very softly, she said, Yes, I think he was. And I think that is why I have spent the last 6 months trying to convince myself that I did not care when he left. It was easier than admitting that I had pushed away the only person who ever tried to love me. They sat together in the firelight, two broken people who had spent years building walls to protect themselves from pain. And in this strange, unexpected night, those walls were finally beginning to crumble. Tell me about your childhood, Cole said quietly. I have told you about Sarah, about Mia, about the worst night of my life. It seems only fair that you share something too. Victoria laughed, but there was no humor in it. My childhood. Where do I even begin? She stood and walked to the window, her reflection ghostly against the snow-covered glass. The blizzard had not let up, and the city below remained plunged in darkness, only occasional emergency lights breaking through the white veil. I grew up wealthy, Victoria began. And before you say that must have been nice, let me tell you what wealthy meant in my family. It meant nannies who changed every 6 months because my mother could not be bothered to remember their names. It meant boarding schools starting at age 7 because my parents traveled too much to actually raise me. It meant birthday parties planned by event coordinators who had never met me, filled with children of my parents' business associates, who I had never met either. Cole remained silent, sensing there was more she needed to say. My father was a CEO just like me. He built his company from nothing, worked 20-hour days, sacrificed everything on the altar of success. My mother was a socialite, more interested in which charity gala she would attend than whether her daughter had learned to ride a bike. They were not cruel people. They were just absent, physically present on occasion, but emotionally gone always. That must have been incredibly lonely. Victoria turned from the window, her eyes glistening in the candlelight. I did not know any different. I thought all families were like that. I thought love was something you earned through achievements, not something you received simply for existing. So I achieved. Straight A's in school, perfect scores on every test, graduated top of my class from business school, took my father's small investment firm, and turned it into Hayes Enterprises. And the loneliness, I filled it with work. Victoria's voice was hollow. I told myself that if I could just close one more deal, acquire one more company, hit one more revenue target, then I would feel complete. Then the emptiness would go away. But it never did. The more I achieved, the more hollow I felt. She moved back to the couch, sitting closer to Cole this time. Richard was the first person who ever saw through the facade. We met at a conference. He was a journalist covering the tech industry. not impressed by my money or my power or my reputation. He asked me questions no one else ever asked. What makes you happy? What do you dream about? What are you afraid of? What did you tell him? Victoria smiled sadly. I told him I was afraid of being ordinary, of being forgotten, of dying without leaving a mark on the world. He laughed and said that everyone leaves a mark. The question is whether we leave marks on spreadsheets or on hearts. That is a profound observation. It was, and I believed him. For 2 years, I believed that Richard was the one who would teach me how to leave marks on hearts instead of spreadsheets, but I never actually let him in. I kept working 80-hour weeks. I kept canceling dinners and vacations and anniversaries. I kept choosing the company over him, over us, over everything. And he left. He left a note. Victoria's voice cracked. 3 sentences. I cannot compete with Hayes Enterprises for your love anymore. I hope you find what you are looking for. Goodbye, Richard. Cole reached out and took her hand again. I am sorry. The worst part, Victoria whispered, is that he was right. I was never fully present with him. I was always thinking about the next deal, the next crisis, the next thing that needed my attention. Even when I was physically with him, my mind was somewhere else. She looked at Cole, her eyes searching his face. And tonight, when I received that text about his wedding, I realized something terrifying. I am 33 years old. I run a $1 billion company. I have more money than I could ever spend. And I have no one. No friends who know the real me. No family who cares whether I live or die. No one to call when the world falls apart. You have me, Cole said softly. For tonight at least. You have me. Victoria stared at him. This maintenance worker who cleaned her floors, this grieving widower who had given up everything for his daughter, this stranger who had seen her at her absolute worst and had not looked away. Why are you being so kind to me? She asked. I am your boss. I have probably signed paperwork that affected your life 100 times without ever knowing your name. I represent everything you sacrificed when you chose to be present for Mia. Cole was quiet for a moment. Then he said, because I know what it is like to be alone. And because I spent 2 years convinced that I did not deserve kindness either. After Sarah died, I punished myself every single day. I told myself that her death was my fault, that I did not deserve happiness or comfort or connection. What changed? Mia changed it. Cole's voice softened. One night about 6 months after the funeral, she crawled into my bed during a thunderstorm. She was terrified, and I was barely functioning, but I held her and sang to her and told her everything would be okay. And when the storm passed, she looked up at me and said, Daddy, Mommy would be sad if you were sad forever. Victoria's breath caught. A 4-year-old taught me that grief is not meant to be permanent, that honoring the people we have lost means living fully, not just surviving. Cole met Victoria's eyes. So when I see someone else drowning in their own pain, I cannot just walk away, because someone very small once threw me a lifeline and it saved my life. Victoria was crying now, tears streaming down her face without any attempt to hide them. I do not know how to do what you are describing, she admitted. I do not know how to let people in. I do not know how to be present. I do not know how to love without keeping 1 foot out the door. Cole squeezed her hand. No one knows at first. It is a skill like anything else. You practice, you fail, you try again, and eventually you get better. What if I am too broken to learn? Cole smiled gently. The most beautiful things in this world are built from broken pieces. Just ask any stained glass window. And Victoria Hayes, the Ice Queen of Manhattan, the woman who had convinced herself that she was incapable of real connection, let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. That is either the corniest thing I have ever heard, she said, or the most beautiful. Probably both, Cole admitted. And despite everything, despite the storm raging outside, and the pain they had both shared, and the uncertainty of what the morning would bring, they laughed together, real laughter. The kind that comes from deep in the belly and leaves you breathless. The kind that makes strangers into friends. The kind that changes everything. Have you ever felt a connection with someone in the most unexpected moment? Drop a comment below. Sometimes the universe has different plans than we do. The snow continued to fall outside the 47th floor windows, but inside the executive lounge, something had shifted. The careful distance between Cole and Victoria had dissolved, completely replaced by an ease that neither of them had experienced with another person in years. Victoria had found a stash of gourmet snacks in the executive kitchen, and they sat together on the floor in front of the dying fire, sharing crackers and cheese and chocolate like two teenagers at a sleepover. The cashmere blankets were wrapped around both of them, now close enough that their shoulders touched with every movement. "Tell me something no one else knows about you," Victoria said, popping a chocolate truffle into her mouth. Cole thought for a moment. "I secretly love Broadway musicals. I have the entire soundtrack to Hamilton memorized. I sing it in the shower when Mia is at school, and I am alone in the apartment." Victoria's face lit up with delight. "You do not." "I absolutely do. I do a mean King George." "Would you like a demonstration?" "Please, no." Victoria laughed, holding up her hands in mock surrender. I believe you completely." "Your turn," Cole said, grinning. "Something no one knows." Victoria was quiet for a moment, considering. "When I was 8 years old, I was convinced I was going to be an astronaut. I had posters of the solar system all over my room at boarding school. I knew the names of every moon around Saturn." Cole stared at her. "You are joking." "I am absolutely not joking." She smiled at his expression. "Why is that so hard to believe?" "Because my daughter is obsessed with space. She wants to be an astronaut more than anything in the world. She knows the moons of Saturn, too. She quizzes me on them constantly." Victoria's eyes softened. "Does she really?" "She has a telescope in her bedroom window. We stay up late on clear nights and look at the stars. She names the constellations like they are her personal friends." Victoria looked at Cole with an expression he could not quite read. "What made you keep encouraging that dream?" Most parents would tell their kids to be more practical, to aim for something more achievable. Cole shook his head. "I will never tell my daughter to dream smaller. The universe is too vast and too beautiful to teach her that she has to fit into a tiny box. If she wants to touch the stars, then I will spend the rest of my life helping her reach them." Victoria was quiet for a long moment. Then very softly she said, "No one ever told me I could touch the stars. By the time I was old enough to really want it, I had already learned that dreams were impractical, and space exploration was for other people." "What did they tell you instead?" "To be sensible, to focus on what was achievable, to build an empire instead of dreaming of galaxies." She laughed, but there was pain in it. "And I did. I built an empire. I achieved everything they said I should achieve. And now I spend my nights in an empty penthouse, watching documentaries about Mars missions and wondering what might have been." Cole reached over and took her hand. "It is not too late, you know." "What do you mean?" "I mean, you are 33 years old. You have more resources than most people could dream of. If you want to touch the stars, if you want to support space exploration, if you want to be part of something bigger than quarterly earnings reports, nothing is stopping you except yourself." Victoria stared at him. "You make it sound so simple." "It is simple. Not easy, but simple. You have to decide what matters to you, really matters. And then you have to be brave enough to pursue it. Is that what you did? When you gave up your engineering career to be present for Mia?" "That is exactly what I did." Cole nodded. "Everyone thought I was crazy. My colleagues told me I was throwing away my future. My family said I was being irresponsible. But I knew what mattered. My daughter needed a father, not a stranger who came home after she was already asleep. So I made the choice. Do you ever regret it?" "Not for a single second," Cole said without hesitation. "The day I picked Mia up from school for the first time, the way her face lit up when she saw me in the pickup line instead of the babysitter, I knew I had made the right decision. I would rather be present in a small life than absent in a big one. Victoria was crying again, silent tears streaming down her face. I want that, she whispered. I want to make choices that matter. I want to build a life that means something beyond stock prices and board meetings. I want to be present. Then start, Cole said simply. Start right now. Start with tonight. Start with being here in this moment with me. Victoria squeezed his hand, and for a long moment, they simply sat together in the firelight. Two strangers who had somehow become something more. Outside, the snow continued to fall, but inside, something beautiful was beginning to bloom. The clock on Victoria's desk showed 11:30 p.m. when she suggested they check on Mia again. The emergency phone connected them to security, and within moments, they were looking at a video feed of the lobby. Mia was sleeping peacefully on her improvised bed behind the security desk. One of the guards had found a stuffed teddy bear somewhere and tucked it under her arm. Her curly brown hair fanned out across the pillow, and her small chest rose and fell with the rhythm of deep sleep. She looked so peaceful, Victoria said softly. The episodes exhaust her, Cole explained. When they pass, she sleeps like nothing can wake her. It is the only silver lining. Victoria was quiet for a moment, watching the sleeping child on the screen. Can I tell you something, she asked? Anything. I never wanted children. Victoria's voice was barely above a whisper. I told myself I would be a terrible mother just like mine was, that I was too focused on my career too, driven too cold. I convinced myself that some people are not meant to be parents, and I was one of them. Cole waited, sensing there was more. But watching you with Mia, even through a phone line, even through a video screen, she continued. Something changed. The way you talked to her during her panic attack, the way your voice shifted when you called her your brave astronaut, the love in your eyes when you look at her, even when she is 47 floors away. What are you saying? Victoria turned to face him. I am saying that I never understood what fatherhood could look like. I only saw the distant version, the one where children are obligations to be managed. I never saw the kind where a parent gives up everything just to be present, where love is not something you earn, but something you simply are. That is not just fatherhood, Cole said gently. That is parenthood, and it is messy and terrifying and exhausting, and the most rewarding thing I have ever done. Victoria nodded slowly. I think I am beginning to understand that. They stood there for a long moment, watching Mia sleep on the security camera, two adults processing something profound without needing to put it into words. Then Victoria did something unexpected. She asked Cole if she could speak to security again. When the guard answered, Victoria made an unusual request. I know this might sound strange, but when she wakes up, can you tell her something from me? Tell her that the pretty lady in the red dress is taking care of her daddy, and that we will all be together soon. Of course, Miss Hayes. And tell her, Victoria added, her voice catching, tell her that I think her daddy is the bravest person I have ever met. Cole stared at her as she hung up the phone. He had not expected that, had not expected any of this strange and beautiful night that had turned a routine shift into something life-changing. You did not have to say that he managed. I know, Victoria replied. But it is true. And I spent too many years not saying true things because they made me vulnerable. She looked at him directly. I am trying to change, Cole, starting now. Starting with being honest about what I see when I look at you. And what do you see? Victoria stepped closer, close enough that he could smell her perfume, something floral and expensive that had faded over the long night. I see a man who chose love over ambition, who chose presence over success, who chose his daughter over everything else the world told him should matter. She paused. And I see someone I want to know better. Not just tonight, not just because we are trapped together, but really know. Cole's heart was pounding. He had not felt this way since Sarah, had not allowed himself to feel this way. The guilt, the grief, the fear of betraying her memory, all of it had kept him frozen for 2 years. But standing here with Victoria, he felt the ice beginning to crack. "I want that too," he said softly. "But I need you to understand something. Mia comes first. Always. She is not negotiable. She is not something to work around. If you want to know me, you have to know her. And she has already lost one mother. I cannot put her through anything that might hurt her again." Victoria nodded solemnly. "I understand, and I would never ask you to choose." She hesitated. "But can I tell you something else? Of course, tonight, when I sang to her, when she calmed down because of something I did, I felt something I have never felt before. A sense of purpose that had nothing to do with business or money or power. It was just this tiny moment of being needed by someone small and scared. And it was the most meaningful thing I have experienced in years." Cole reached out and cupped her face, gently tilting it up, so their eyes met. "You are worth so much more than you know," he said. "And whoever made you believe otherwise was wrong. Completely wrong." Victoria's eyes glistened. And for a moment, everything else faded away the storm. The darkness, the 47 floors separating them from Mia. There was only this moment, this connection, this possibility of something beautiful. But before either of them could speak again, Cole's phone buzzed. It was midnight, minus 10 minutes, and Mia was awake. The video call connected, and Mia's face filled the screen, sleepy but smiling. Her curly brown hair stuck up at odd angles from the pillow, and she clutched the teddy bear the security guard had given her. "Daddy, I woke up just in time for the countdown." Cole laughed, his heart swelling at the sight of his daughter's face. "You sure did, baby. Are you ready to count down to the new year?" "I am ready." Mia bounced with excitement. "Is Miss Victoria still there?" Victoria leaned into the frame, her face softening into a genuine smile. "I am right here, sweetheart. I told you I would take care of your daddy." Mia studied Victoria through the camera with the unfiltered assessment that only children possess. "You look tired," she announced, "but still pretty. I like your dress." Victoria laughed. "Thank you, Mia. I like your teddy bear. His name is Midnight, because I found him at midnight. Well, almost midnight." Mia hugged the bear tighter. "The nice guard said I could keep him." That is a perfect name. In the background, they could hear the security guards preparing their own countdown, one of them tuning a small radio to catch the distant sounds of celebrations that the storm had not entirely silenced. "Daddy," Mia said, her voice suddenly serious. "Do you know what I wished for at Christmas?" "What did you wish for, baby?" "I wished that you would not be sad anymore." Mia's big blue eyes were filled with more understanding than any 6-year-old should possess. "You try to hide it, but I know. You miss Mommy, and you are always alone." Cole's breath caught in his throat. "But tonight you are not alone," Mia continued. "You have Miss Victoria, and she helped me when I was scared. So maybe my wish is coming true." Victoria's hand found Cole's, their fingers intertwining off camera. The security guard's voice came through the speakers. 30 seconds to midnight, folks." Mia started bouncing again. Okay, it is almost time. Everyone ready." "Ready," Cole and Victoria said together. The countdown began. 10, 9, 8. Cole watched his daughter's face on the screen, her eyes shining with excitement, and felt something shift in his chest. For 2 years, he had been frozen, trapped in grief and guilt and fear. For 2 years, he had convinced himself that he did not deserve happiness, that moving forward would be betraying Sarah's memory. 7, 6, 5. But Sarah would not have wanted this for him. She would have wanted him to live, to love, to find joy again. She had said those exact words in the hospital during one of their last conversations before her accident. "Promise me you will not stop living," because I had to. He had never made that promise. She died before he could answer. 4, 3, 2. Maybe it was time to make it now. "Happy New Year, Daddy," Mia shouted through the screen. "I love you more than all the stars." "I love you more than all the moons," Baby Cole replied, tears streaming down his face. "Happy New Year." And then Mia did something that changed everything. "Miss Victoria," she said with perfect 6-year-old innocence, "can you give Daddy a kiss for me?" Mommy always kissed him at midnight, and he should not go without a midnight kiss just because Mommy is in heaven. The request hung in the air. The security guard in the background made a sound of embarrassment, starting to apologize for the child's forwardness. But Victoria spoke first. "Of course, Mia. Anything for you." She turned to Cole, and he saw in her eyes everything she had been too afraid to say all night. The hope, the vulnerability, the desperate longing for connection that she had spent a lifetime denying. "Is this okay?" she whispered. Cole did not answer with words. He simply pulled her close. Victoria's hands came up to cradle his face, gentle and certain, and then she kissed him. Not with passion or hunger, though those things were there simmering beneath the surface. This kiss was something else entirely. It was a promise, a declaration, a beginning. Her lips were soft against his, and she tasted like chocolate and whiskey and hope. Cole's hands found her waist, pulling her closer, and for one perfect moment, nothing else existed. Not the storm, not the darkness, not the 47 floors separating them from his daughter. Just this. Just them. Just the possibility of something beautiful. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were crying. On the screen, Mia was clapping her hands with delight. "You did it, Miss Victoria. You did it. Now Daddy will not be sad anymore." Victoria laughed through her tears. "I hope so, sweetheart. I really hope so." Cole turned back to the camera, his arm still around Victoria's waist. "Happy New Year, baby. Now go back to sleep. Okay. The storm will pass soon, and Daddy will be down to get you before you know it." "Okay, Daddy." Mia yawned. "But promise me something. Anything. Promise me Miss Victoria will come to breakfast with us. I want pancakes, and I want to tell her about my rockets." Cole looked at Victoria, a question in his eyes. Victoria smiled, that radiant smile that transformed her entire face. "I would love nothing more than to hear about your rockets, Mia." "Good. It is a plan." Mia yawned again, her eyes already drooping. "Love you, Daddy. Love you, Miss Victoria." The screen went dark as Mia drifted off to sleep. Cole and Victoria stood in the silence, still holding each other, processing what had just happened. That was Victoria started. Unexpected, life-changing. Cole smiled and pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead. "Happy New Year, Victoria." She leaned into him, her head resting against his chest. "Happy New Year, Cole." Outside, the storm continued to rage, but inside they had found their calm. They did not sleep for the rest of the night. Instead, they talked until the first gray light of dawn began to appear behind the snow-covered windows. Cole told Victoria about his fears about the guilt that still whispered in his ear every time he felt a moment of happiness. Victoria told Cole about her doubts about the voice that insisted she was incapable of real connection, that Richard had been right to leave, that she would inevitably fail at anything that required emotional vulnerability. They talked about practical things, too. The complications of a CEO dating a maintenance worker, the office gossip that would inevitably follow the board members who would raise eyebrows and make pointed comments about professional appropriateness. "I do not care about any of that," Victoria said firmly. "I have spent my entire life making decisions based on what other people would think. And where has that gotten me? Alone on New Year's Eve crying on my office floor." "But your reputation," Cole said. "Your company. Everything you have built." Victoria shook her head. "Hayes Enterprises is not going anywhere. And if my reputation cannot survive me dating a good man who happens to work a different job than my board approves of, then my reputation was always built on shallow ground anyway." She took his hands, her expression fierce and certain. "I am done hiding, Cole. Done pretending. Done choosing appearances over authenticity. Tonight showed me what I have been missing. Connection. Vulnerability. The willingness to be really seen by another person." She paused. "And I saw something else, too." "What?" "I saw you with Mia. I saw what fatherhood looks like when it is done right. When a parent puts their child first, sacrifices for them, shows up for them every single day. Victoria's voice cracked. I want to learn how to do that. I want to be part of something real. Cole studied her face in the growing dawn light. You understand that this will not be easy. I am a package deal. Mia comes with me everywhere always. She will interrupt dates. She will demand attention at inconvenient times. She will test every boundary you try to set. I know, and I cannot rush this. She has already lost one mother figure. I will not let her get attached to someone who might leave. Victoria nodded solemnly. I understand, and I'm not asking for a commitment tonight. I am asking for a chance to prove that I can be present, that I can show up, that I can be someone worth trusting. Cole was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. Let us start with breakfast. Pancakes with Mia. Bad diner coffee. See how it feels in the daylight. Victoria smiled back. That sounds perfect. They stood together at the window, watching the sun rise over the snow-covered city. The storm had finally begun to subside, the thick flakes giving way to gentler flurries. Emergency lights still dotted the landscape, but here and there windows were beginning to glow with restored power. Look, Victoria said softly. The city is waking up. So are we, Cole replied. They stood in comfortable silence as the dawn painted the sky in shades of pink and gold. And for the first time in 2 years, Cole felt hope. At 6:47 a.m., the lights in the building flickered on. Victoria's computer hummed to life. The elevators began their mechanical whirring. Throughout Hayes Tower, the sounds of normalcy returned. Systems rebooting doors, unlocking the world, resuming its regular rhythm. Cole looked at Victoria, and for a moment, the magic of the night seemed fragile, like it might evaporate in the harsh fluorescence of the restored lighting. But Victoria reached out and took his hand. This does not end when we walk out of this office, she said. I meant everything I said tonight. Cole squeezed her hand. So did I. Then, let us go get your daughter. Cole had never moved faster in his life than he did when those elevator doors finally opened on the 47th floor. He punched the button for the lobby so many times that Victoria had to gently pull his hand away, laughing at his impatience. The elevator ride down seemed to take an eternity. But then the doors opened and Cole saw her. Mia was standing in the middle of the lobby, the teddy bear clutched to her chest, her big blue eyes scanning every person who emerged from the elevators. When she spotted Cole, her entire face transformed. Daddy! She ran full speed across the marble floor, nearly tripping over her own feet, and launched herself into Cole's arms with enough force to knock him back a step. He caught her easily, lifting her up and holding her so tight that she squealed. I missed you, Daddy. I missed you so much. Were you scared? I was a little scared. But then Miss Victoria sang to me, and I felt better. I missed you too, baby. Cole buried his face in her curly hair, breathing in the familiar scent of her strawberry shampoo. I was not scared. Not really. Because I knew my brave astronaut was down here waiting for me. Mia pulled back to study his face with intense scrutiny. You were crying. Your eyes are all red. Happy tears, baby. The best kind. Then, Mia looked past Cole's shoulder and spotted Victoria standing a few feet behind him. The CEO had attempted to smooth her hair and fix her makeup, but she still looked like a woman who had been through a very long night. Miss Victoria. Mia wiggled until Cole set her down, then ran over and grabbed Victoria's hand. You came down with Daddy. Did you keep your promise? Did you take care of him? Victoria knelt down so she was eye level with the little girl, her red dress pooling on the marble floor. I tried my best. Did I do okay? Mia considered this seriously. You did good. He does not look as sad as usual. Maybe you are magic. Victoria laughed, her eyes glistening. Maybe you are the magic one, Mia. The security guards who had watched over Mia all night gathered around, accepting thanks and shaking hands. Cole made a mental note to bring them all something special, to find some way to repay the kindness they had shown his daughter during the darkest hours. As they walked out of Hayes Tower into the bright January morning, the the snow crunching beneath their feet. Mia positioned herself between the two adults, taking both their hands. "Are we still getting pancakes?" she asked hopefully. "We are absolutely getting pancakes," Cole confirmed. They walked through the snowy streets to Mia's favorite diner, a place with worn vinyl booths and laminated menus and the best silver dollar pancakes in Manhattan. Victoria stuck out like a sore thumb in her wrinkled red dress and expensive jewelry, but she did not seem to care. She slid into the booth beside Mia, studying the children's menu with genuine interest. "What do you recommend?" Victoria asked Mia seriously. "You are the expert here." "The chocolate chip pancakes are the best," Mia declared. "But Daddy says I can only have those on special occasions because of the sugar. I think surviving a blizzard counts as a special occasion," Victoria said, glancing at Cole. "Do you not agree?" Cole smiled. "I think you might be right." The waitress came, and Victoria ordered chocolate chip pancakes just like Mia. Cole ordered his usual eggs and bacon, and they sat together in the morning sunlight, eating and talking and laughing like they had known each other for years instead of hours. Mia dominated the conversation, telling Victoria about her rockets, her telescope, her dreams of walking on Mars. Victoria listened with genuine fascination, asking questions and offering encouragement. "When I grow up," Mia announced between bites of pancake, "I am going to be the first person to live on Mars permanently. I am going to build a house there and everything." "That sounds amazing," Victoria said. "What would your Mars house look like?" Mia launched into an elaborate description involving glass domes, underground tunnels, and a special room just for growing space tomatoes. Victoria pulled out her phone, now replaced after the previous night's destruction, and began sketching Mia's vision on a note-taking app. "I used to want to be an astronaut too," Victoria mentioned casually. Mia's eyes went wide. "You did?" "I did. When I was about your age, I had posters of all the planets in my room. I knew the names of every moon around Saturn." "I know those too." Mia bounced excitedly. "There is Titan and Enceladus and Rhea and Dione and Tethys." Victoria finished with her. Mia stared at Victoria with newfound wonder. "You are the coolest grown-up I have ever met." Cole watched this exchange with a warmth spreading through his chest. This was what he had missed. Not just romance, not just adult companionship, but this. Another person who could engage with Mia, share her interests, make her feel seen and heard. Sarah would have loved this. Cole thought. She would have loved seeing someone take Mia's dreams seriously. And for the first time, thinking about Sarah did not bring crushing guilt. It brought gratitude. After breakfast, they walked Mia to her grandmother's house. Sarah's mother, Martha, had been watching Mia whenever Cole worked the late shift, and she had been worried sick all night about the blizzard. "Oh, thank goodness," Martha exclaimed when she opened the door, pulling Mia into a fierce hug. "I tried calling all night, but nothing was going through." "We are okay," Grandma Mia assured her. "Daddy was stuck upstairs, but Miss Victoria took care of him. And she knows the moons of Saturn." Martha looked past Mia at the elegant woman in the red dress, standing beside her son-in-law. Her eyes narrowed slightly, taking in the details, the wrinkled designer clothes, the expensive jewelry, the way Victoria stood close enough to Cole that their shoulders almost touched. Martha Cole said carefully, "This is Victoria Hayes. She is the CEO of Hayes Enterprises. We got trapped together during the blackout." Something flickered in Martha's expression. Understanding, perhaps. Or maybe suspicion. "It is nice to meet you, Victoria," Martha said politely. "Thank you for looking after our Cole." Victoria nodded. "He looked after me just as much. Your granddaughter is remarkable, by the way. You have raised an incredible family." Martha's expression softened slightly. "She is her mother's daughter, full of light." The mention of Sarah hung in the air, weighted with meaning. Cole kissed Mia goodbye, promising to pick her up that evening, and he and Victoria walked back toward the subway in thoughtful silence. "Your mother-in-law does not like me," Victoria observed. "She does not know you yet." Cole took her hand. "She is protective. Sarah was her only daughter. She worries that I will forget her. Will you? Victoria asked quietly. Forget her. Cole stopped walking and turned to face Victoria. Never. Sarah will always be part of me, part of Mia, part of our family story. But she would not have wanted me to stop living. She said those exact words to me once, long before the accident. And I am finally ready to honor that wish. Victoria studied his face. What are you saying exactly? I am saying that I want to see where this goes. Not rushing, not making promises neither of us can keep, but genuinely exploring what this connection could become, even with all the complications. My job, your job, the gossip, even with all of that. Cole squeezed her hand. You showed me something last night, Victoria. You showed me that you can be present, that you can prioritize people over productivity, that beneath all those walls you have built there is a woman worth knowing. Victoria's eyes glistened. And you showed me that I am capable of more than I believed, that vulnerability is not weakness, that being seen is not something to fear. They stood on the snowy sidewalk, two people at the beginning of something neither of them had expected. So Victoria said, what happens now? Now I go home and get some sleep. And then I text you, and we figure out the next step together. Victoria smiled. I can work with that. She leaned in and kissed him soft and sweet, right there on the Manhattan sidewalk, with morning commuters streaming past. Happy New Year, Tootluo. She whispered against his lips. Happy New Year, Victoria. And for the first time in 2 years, Cole Harrison walked home believing that the future might actually hold something beautiful. If you have ever watched someone you love learn to love again, you know how beautiful and terrifying it is. Stay with us to see how this family grows. The first 3 months were a study in adjustment. Victoria, who had built her life around 80-hour work weeks and constant availability, had to learn an entirely new rhythm. Dating a single father meant that plans could be canceled at a moment's notice because Mia had a fever or a nightmare or simply needed her daddy. It meant that romantic dinners were often replaced by pizza nights with a 6-year-old who talked non-stop about space stations. It meant that the most intimate moments were frequently interrupted by small feet padding down the hallway and a sleepy voice asking for water. Victoria did not complain, not once. January was filled with careful, measured steps. They went on dates when Cole could arrange babysitting, but they spent just as much time doing things with Mia. Ice skating in Central Park, where Victoria proved to be surprisingly coordinated, despite claiming she had not skated in 20 years. Movie afternoons, where Mia insisted they all watch space documentaries, and Victoria took notes like she was preparing for a board meeting. Rocket building sessions in Cole's small apartment, where Victoria got glue in her hair and laughed about it for a week. Cole watched Victoria transform before his eyes. The cold executive persona she wore like armor began to crack and chip away, revealing the warm, curious woman underneath. She asked Mia questions with genuine interest. She remembered the names of Mia's school friends. She brought small gifts, not expensive toys that would overwhelm a 6-year-old, but thoughtful things. A new set of colored pencils when Mia mentioned liking to draw. A book about women astronauts that made Mia's eyes light up. A star map poster for her bedroom wall. She is trying so hard, Martha observed one evening when she came by to check on them. That woman who spent her whole life in boardrooms is sitting on your floor playing Candyland with a 6-year-old. Cole smiled. I know. You love her. It was not a question. I think I'm starting to, Cole admitted. It is different than it was with Sarah. Nothing could ever be the same as that. But it is real. And it is growing. Martha was quiet for a moment. Then she reached out and squeezed Cole's hand. Sarah would approve, she said softly. She would want you to be happy. February brought Valentine's Day, and with it, Cole's first real test of creative gift-giving on a maintenance worker's budget. He could not compete with the expensive restaurants and extravagant presents that Victoria's previous boyfriends had probably showered her with, so he did not try to compete. Instead, he invited Victoria to come over for dinner at his apartment. When she arrived expecting perhaps a nice home-cooked meal, she found the entire living room transformed. Cole and Mia had spent all day decorating with handmade paper hearts, string lights from the dollar store, and a banner that read, "Happy Valentine's Day, Miss Victoria," in Mia's enthusiastic crayon lettering. The dinner was chicken nuggets and macaroni and cheese. Mia's favorites served on their nicest plates, with candles flickering on the table. Dessert was cupcakes that Cole and Mia had baked together slightly lopsided and covered in too much frosting. Victoria sat at that modest kitchen table, surrounded by paper hearts and dollar store decorations, eating food that would have horrified her catering staff, and burst into tears. "This is the most beautiful Valentine's Day I have ever had," she whispered. Mia looked concerned. "Those are happy tears, right? Daddy said they were happy tears when he cried on New Year's." "The happiest," Victoria confirmed. Pulling the little girl into a hug, Mia had made her a handmade Valentine glitter and stickers and hearts cut from construction paper, and Victoria clutched it like it was made of precious gems. That night after Mia had gone to sleep, Cole and Victoria sat on his tiny balcony, wrapped in blankets against the February cold. "No one has ever made me a Valentine before," Victoria said quietly. "Not even when I was a child." "What do you mean?" "My schools did not allow holiday celebrations. Too distracting," they said. "And my parents?" She laughed bitterly. "My father sent flowers once because his secretary put it on his calendar. My mother did not even acknowledge the day." Cole took her hand. "Then we will make you a Valentine every year from now on. You and Mia and me. It will be our tradition." Victoria leaned her head against his shoulder. "I would like that more than you can possibly know." March brought the first real meeting with extended family. Cole decided it was time for Victoria to properly meet Martha and Sarah's extended family at the monthly Sunday dinner gathering. He was nervous about it, worried that the people who loved Sarah might see Victoria as an intruder, a replacement for their beloved daughter and sister. But Victoria surprised everyone. She arrived with flowers from Martha and homemade cookies that she admitted she had made 3 batches of before getting right. She listened attentively to stories about Sarah, not with jealousy, but with genuine interest. She asked questions about Sarah's childhood, her dreams, her quirks. She looked at the family photos on Martha's walls and said Mia has her mother's smile. When Sarah's brother Mark cornered her in the kitchen, Victoria did not flinch. "I need to know your intentions," Mark said bluntly. "My sister is gone. Mia is all we have left of her. Cole is family. We will not let someone hurt them." Victoria met his gaze steadily. "I am not here to replace Sarah. I know I could never do that, and I would never try. But I care about Cole and Mia. I want to be part of their lives, not as a substitute for what they lost, but as something new. Something additional." Mark studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "Fair enough. But if you hurt them—" "I know," Victoria interrupted. "You will make me regret it. I would expect nothing less." A reluctant smile crossed Mark's face. "You have got backbone. Sarah would have liked that about you." After dinner, as they drove home with Mia sleeping in the back seat, Cole reached over and took Victoria's hand. "You were amazing tonight." "I was terrified," Victoria admitted. "I kept thinking about all the ways I could mess up, say the wrong thing about Sarah, offend someone, make them think I was trying to erase her. But you did not." "No," Victoria said softly, "because I realized something important. Sarah is not my competition. She is part of the fabric of this family. Trying to pretend she did not exist would be like trying to cut out Mia's heart. It is not possible, and it would be wrong to try." Cole brought her hand to his lips and kissed it gently. "I love you," he said. The words came out before he had planned them, but they were true. So true it almost hurt. Victoria's breath caught. "You do." "I do. I know it is complicated. I know there are 1,000 reasons this should not work. But I love you, Victoria. I love who you are when you are with Mia. I love who you are becoming. I love that you try so hard even when you are terrified." Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "I love you too. I did not think I was capable of it, but I do. I love you and Mia. You have shown me what it means to be present, to be real, to be part of something bigger than myself." They sat in the car outside Cole's apartment building, holding hands and crying and laughing all at once. And in the back seat, Mia stirred slightly, murmured something about rocket ships, and smiled in her sleep. Love stories are rarely smooth, and Cole and Victoria's was no exception. The 4th month of their relationship brought challenges that tested everything they had built. It started with whispers. Cole noticed them first, the sideways glances when he walked through Hayes Tower in his maintenance uniform, the sudden silences when he entered a break room, the barely concealed smirks from employees who had heard the rumors. The CEO is dating the janitor. He tried to ignore it. He had never cared what people thought of him, had given up prestige years ago when he chose to be present for Mia. But it bothered him that Victoria's reputation was being tarnished by association with him. Victoria, of course, heard the whispers too. But unlike Cole, she knew exactly how vicious corporate gossip could become. The board called an emergency meeting in April. Cole was not invited, but Victoria told him about it afterward, her face tight with controlled anger. "They said I am distracted," she explained, "that my personal choices are affecting my judgment. They brought up the stock price, which has been perfectly stable, and suggested that investors might lose confidence if I am seen as unprofessional." "What did you say?" Victoria's eyes flashed. "I told them that my personal life is none of their concern, as long as the company continues to perform." And then I showed them the quarterly earnings report, which exceeded projections by 12%. And they backed off. For now. But they will be watching. Cole felt the familiar weight of guilt settling on his shoulders. I should quit. Find a job somewhere else. Take myself out of the equation so your board has nothing to complain about. "Absolutely not," Victoria said firmly. "You leaving Hayes Tower would not stop the gossip. It would just confirm that we think there is something shameful about our relationship. And there is not. I will not let small-minded people dictate who I am allowed to love, but the cost to you is worth it." She took his face in her hands. "Cole, I spent my entire life making decisions based on what other people thought. And you know where that got me. Alone. Broken. Crying on my office floor. You showed me a different way to live. I am not going backward. The professional complications were difficult, but the personal ones were harder." Mia started having trouble at school. Her teacher called Cole to report that Mia had been crying during recess, refusing to play with the other children. When Cole asked what was wrong, Mia's answer broke his heart. "Emma said I was getting a new mommy." Mia whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "She said Miss Victoria is going to replace Mommy, and I will have to forget her. But I do not want to forget Mommy, Daddy. I do not want to." Cole held his daughter tight, his own tears threatening to fall. "Listen to me, baby. No one is ever going to replace Mommy. Not Miss Victoria, not anyone. Mommy will always be your Mommy. She is in your heart forever. Miss Victoria is not trying to take Mommy's place. She is just adding more love to our family. Do you understand?" Mia sniffled. "So I can love Mommy and Miss Victoria at the same time. You can love as many people as your heart can hold. That is the amazing thing about love. It does not run out." The conversation seemed to help, but Cole knew they were at a delicate stage. He began to pull back from Victoria canceling dates, making excuses, convinced that he was moving too fast and putting Mia at risk. Victoria noticed immediately. "You are pushing me away," she said. During a rare moment alone, her voice hurt but controlled. "Why? What did I do wrong?" "You did not do anything wrong," Cole said miserably. "It is me." Mia is confused and scared, and I do not know if I am making things worse by having you in our lives. So your solution is to have me not in your lives. I do not know. Cole ran his hands through his hair. I do not know what the right answer is. All I know is that Mia comes first. And if being with you is hurting her, it is not, Victoria interrupted. Pulling away from her is hurting her. Can you not see that? Cole stared at her. What do you mean? I mean that Mia asked me last week if I was going to leave like her mommy did. Not because she thinks I am replacing her mother, because she is already attached. She already loves me. And now she is watching her father withdraw, watching the woman she cares about get pushed away. She is learning that love means losing people. The words hit Cole like a physical blow. I did not think of it that way. He whispered. I know you did not. Victoria's voice softened. You are trying to protect her. That is what you do. But protection is not always about keeping things out. Sometimes it is about letting things in. Showing her that love does not have to end in abandonment. Cole was quiet for a long moment, processing. I do not know how to do this, he finally admitted. I do not know how to be a good father and a good partner at the same time. I keep feeling like I have to choose. You do not have to choose, Victoria said. You just have to let us figure it out together. All three of us. And so they did. That weekend, Victoria came over for what Mia called a family meeting. The little girl sat on the couch between the two adults, her expression serious. Victoria began gently. I want you to know something important. I will never try to replace your mommy. She was your mommy, and she always will be. I am not trying to take that away from you. Mia nodded slowly. Daddy told me that. Good. But I also want you to know that I love you. And I love your daddy. And if it is okay with you, I would like to keep being part of your family. Not as a replacement for anyone. Just as someone else who loves you. Mia considered this. Can I still call you Miss Victoria? You can call me whatever feels comfortable. I was actually thinking. Victoria hesitated. Maybe you could call me Tori. That is what your daddy calls me sometimes. And it might feel more like a friend name than a boss name. Mia tested the word out loud. Tori. She smiled. I like that. And when you are ready, if you ever want to, you can call me something else. Whatever feels right to you. There is no pressure and no wrong answer. Mia nodded again, then asked the question that surprised them all. Tori, will you stay? Not like Mommy stayed. Because Mommy did not choose to leave. But will you choose to stay? Victoria's eyes filled with tears. Yes, Mia. I choose to stay. I will keep choosing to stay every single day for as long as you and your daddy will have me. Mia threw her arms around Victoria's neck. And in that moment, Cole knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The summer brought transformation. Victoria, true to her word, restructured her schedule to be more present. She hired a chief operating officer to handle the day-to-day operations that used to consume her every waking hour. She delegated responsibilities she had always insisted on controlling herself. For the first time in her career, she prioritized living over building. And the company thrived anyway. It turns out that treating employees like human beings is good for business, Victoria observed wryly. Who knew? She started leaving work at 5 o'clock most days, unheard of for a CEO of her stature. She joined Cole and Mia for dinner at least 3 times a week. She attended Mia's school events, her rocket launches, her bedtime stories. She learned to braid hair badly at first, then better. She learned to make macaroni and cheese from scratch. She learned the words to Mia's favorite bedtime songs. The apartment that had once felt cramped now felt cozy. Victoria helped Cole paint Mia's room a deep blue like the night sky, and they covered the ceiling with glow-in-the-dark stars. They hung photos on the walls, not just of Sarah and Mia's early years, but new ones too. Victoria and Mia at the aquarium. Cole and Victoria at a friend's wedding. All 3 of them covered in flour after a disastrous baking attempt that ended with more dough on the floor than in the pan. In August, they took their first real vacation together. Not a luxury resort, which Victoria could have easily afforded, but a camping trip upstate. Victoria had never been camping in her life. There are bugs, she complained on the first night, swatting at a mosquito. And the ground is very hard. And I'm fairly certain something just made a noise in those trees that sounded distinctly bear-like. Probably just a raccoon, Cole said, trying not to laugh. Or a bear pretending to be a raccoon. Despite her protests, Victoria fell in love with the experience. She marveled at the stars so much clearer away from the city lights. She helped Mia collect pine cones and interesting rocks. She even managed to roast marshmallows without setting herself on fire, though it was a near thing. On the last night as they sat around the campfire, Mia curled up asleep between them. Victoria turned to Cole with tears in her eyes. "I never knew life could feel like this," she whispered. "This full, this real." Cole kissed her forehead. "This is just the beginning." September brought Mia's 7th birthday party. Victoria insisted on helping plan it, but she followed Cole's lead, understanding that extravagance was not the point. The party was held at a local park with homemade decorations and a rocket-shaped cake that Victoria had spent 3 attempts perfecting. Mia's friends ran around laughing while the adults chatted under a pavilion. Martha was there along with Sarah's brother Mark and his wife. Cole's parents had flown in from Florida. Everyone mingled and talked and laughed. And somewhere in the middle of it all, Mia grabbed Victoria's hand and dragged her toward the swings. "Push me, Tori. Push me really high so I can touch the sky." Victoria pushed, and Mia shrieked with delight, her hair flying behind her as she soared through the air. Cole watched from a distance this woman who had once been terrified of vulnerability, now fully immersed in the joy of a child's birthday party. His heart felt impossibly full. In October, Victoria took Cole and Mia to a planetarium show about Mars exploration. Mia was mesmerized, peppering Victoria with questions before, during, and after. Victoria answered every single one, and when she did not know the answer, she wrote the question down so they could research it together later. On the drive home, Mia made an announcement. "Tori, when I grow up and build my Mars house, you can come visit me. I will make sure to have a special room just for you." Victoria glanced at Cole, her eyes glistening. "I would love that, Mia. I will bring cookies." "Space cookies." Mia corrected. They have to be space cookies because regular cookies would not survive the trip, obviously. What was I thinking? November brought Thanksgiving, the first holiday they spent officially as a family unit. They hosted dinner at Victoria's apartment, which had undergone its own transformation over the past months. No longer a showpiece of cold elegance, it now had drawings taped to the refrigerator, a telescope by the window, and a corner specifically designated for Mia's toys. The table was filled with people: Martha and Sarah's extended family, Cole's parents, Victoria's assistant, who had become a genuine friend. Even one of Victoria's board members, who had initially been the most vocal opponent of her relationship with Cole, had come around after seeing how the CEO's work-life balance had actually improved her decision-making. Before they ate, Victoria stood to speak. "I used to dread holidays," she admitted. "They reminded me of everything I did not have: family, connection, belonging." Her voice wavered. "But this year, for the first time, I understand what the fuss is about. I have a family. I have people who love me, not for what I can do for them, but for who I am. And I am more grateful than I can possibly express." She raised her glass. "To family, however we find it, however we build it, however we become it." "To family," everyone echoed. And as Cole looked around the table at all these people brought together by love and loss and the unexpected grace of second chances, he felt Sarah's presence like a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Thank you," he thought silently. "Thank you for loving me enough to let me go. Thank you for giving me Mia. Thank you for making me the man who could recognize love when it found me again." The first anniversary of their meeting arrived with the first snowfall of December. Cole and Victoria stood at the window of Hayes Tower, looking out at the same view they had watched on that fateful New Year's Eve. One year, Victoria said softly, "Can you believe it?" "Sometimes I cannot believe it has only been a year," Cole replied. Other times, I cannot believe how much has changed. Downstairs, Mia was having a sleepover with her best friend. Martha had offered to supervise giving Cole and Victoria a rare evening alone together. I have something for you, Victoria said. She handed him a small wrapped box. Inside was a key. Cole stared at it. Is this what I think it is? If you think it is a key to my apartment, then yes. Victoria's cheeks flushed. I know we have been taking things slowly, and I'm not asking you to move in tomorrow or anything that dramatic. But I want you to know that you have a home with me, whenever you want it. For however long you want it. Cole pulled her into his arms. I love you. I love you too. They stood together as the snow fell outside. Two people who had found each other in the most unexpected way, who had faced every obstacle together, who had built something beautiful from the broken pieces of their pasts. 1 year ago, Cole said I was a man who had given up on happiness. I thought I would spend the rest of my life just surviving, going through the motions, waiting for it to be over. And now, I cannot wait to see what happens next. Victoria smiled. Neither can I. Cole had been planning for 3 months. It started with the ring, a modest diamond set in a delicate band with tiny stars etched into the gold. Not flashy, not expensive by Victoria's standards, but meaningful. The jeweler had created it custom based on a sketch Cole had labored over for weeks. The stars are from Mia, Cole had explained. She is our constellation, the one that guides everything. Then came the logistics. He needed the perfect moment, the perfect setting. Victoria had been on enough luxury vacations and attended enough extravagant events that a typical proposal would feel hollow. He wanted something that captured the essence of who they were together, and so he enlisted Mia as his co-conspirator. We are going to ask Tori to marry us, he explained to his daughter one evening after Victoria had left for a business trip. What do you think? Mia's eyes went wide. Really, she is going to be my Tori mom for real, if she says yes. She is going to say yes, Daddy. Obviously. She loves us. Cole smiled at his daughter's certainty. I hope you are right, baby. Mia was predictably terrible at keeping secrets. Every time Victoria came over in the following weeks, the little girl would dissolve into giggles for no apparent reason, cover her mouth dramatically whenever Cole looked at her, and make extremely unsubtle comments like, "Do you like stars? Tori, do you like surprises? Do you like both of those things together?" Victoria gave Cole questioning looks, which he deflected with innocent shrugs. On a clear March evening, Cole loaded Mia and Victoria into his car and drove them out of the city. The destination was a hilltop in Westchester that Cole had discovered months earlier, a place with minimal light pollution and a stunning view of the stars. "Where are we going?" Victoria asked from the passenger seat. "It is a surprise," Mia announced from the back. "A very big surprise. The biggest." Victoria raised an eyebrow at Cole. "She has been like this all week," she murmured. "What is going on? You will see," Cole said, his heart hammering against his ribs. They arrived at the hilltop just as the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Cole spread blankets on the frozen ground and produced thermoses of hot chocolate, while Mia bounced around with barely contained excitement. "This is beautiful," Victoria said, settling onto the blanket beside Cole. "How did you find this place?" Mia helped. "We wanted to find somewhere with really good stars." The sky darkened rapidly, and one by one the stars emerged. Victoria gasped as the Milky Way became visible, a river of light stretching across the heavens. "I have never seen so many stars," she whispered. "This is the best part," Mia said eagerly. "Watch." As if on cue, a meteor streaked across the sky. Then another, and another. Cole had planned this for weeks, consulting astronomy websites and meteor shower schedules, waiting for the perfect night when the Quadrantids would put on their annual show. "A meteor shower," Victoria breathed. "Cole, this is incredible." Cole reached into his pocket and pulled out the small box he had been carrying for 3 weeks. "Mia," he said softly, "I think it is time." Mia scrambled to her feet, unable to contain herself any longer. She pulled a handmade sign from behind the rock where they had hidden it earlier. The sign read, "Will you marry us?" Victoria's hands flew to her mouth. Cole opened the box, revealing the ring with its tiny star engravings glinting in the starlight. "Victoria." He began, his voice thick with emotion. 2 years ago, I thought my life was over. I was drowning in grief and guilt, convinced that I did not deserve happiness. And then a blizzard trapped me in a building with the most unexpected person. Tears were streaming down Victoria's face. "You saw me when I was invisible. You loved my daughter before you loved me. You sat on my cheap carpet and let a 7-year-old paint your nails. You learned the moons of Saturn. You showed me that living is not betraying Sarah's memory. It is honoring it." He took a shaky breath. "I am not offering you a perfect life. I am offering you our life. Messy and complicated and filled with rocket launches and bedtime stories and homework battles and all the beautiful chaos that comes with being a family. Will you be part of it? Will you marry us?" Mia was bouncing on her toes. "Say yes! Say yes! Say yes!" Victoria laughed through her tears. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." Cole slid the ring onto her finger, his hands trembling. And then Mia launched herself at both of them, knocking them all onto the blanket in a tangle of limbs and laughter and tears. "I get a Tory mom. I get a Tory mom." Victoria hugged the little girl tight. "Only if you want me to be, sweetheart. I will be whatever you need me to be." Mia pulled back and looked at her with those big blue eyes so much like Sarah's, and yet so uniquely her own. "I want you to be my Tory mom. Not instead of mommy, but also. Can you be also?" Victoria's voice broke. "I can be also. I would be honored to be also." Above them, meteors continued to streak across the sky, nature's own fireworks celebrating the moment. Cole lay on the blanket with his 2 favorite people in the world, watching the universe put on a show just for them, and felt a peace so profound it almost hurt. This is it, he thought. This is what living feels like. They were married on New Year's Eve exactly 2 years after the night that had changed everything. The venue was the 47th floor of Hayes Tower, transformed from an executive suite into a celebration space. Victoria had insisted on it. "That is where our story began," she said. "That is where it should become official." The guest list was intimate, only 50 people. Sarah's family, who had become Victoria's family too. Cole's parents, who had embraced their son's new love with open hearts. Victoria's assistant colleagues, who had become friends, a few board members who had learned to see past their initial judgments. Cole stood at the makeshift altar, wearing a suit that Victoria had insisted on buying him despite his protests. His hands were sweating, his heart racing, but the nerves were the good kind, the excited kind. Beside him stood Mia, now 8 years old, in a dress she had helped choose, holding a pillow with the wedding rings. "Daddy," she whispered loudly, "I am very nervous." "Me too," baby, Cole whispered back. "But Tori is going to look so pretty. I saw her dress. It is amazing." Then she gasped and covered her mouth. "I was not supposed to tell you that." Cole laughed. "It is okay. I will act surprised." The music changed, and the doors at the far end of the room opened. Victoria walked down the aisle alone. She had no father to give her away. No family that claimed her the way families were supposed to. But she walked with her head high, her smile radiant, her eyes fixed on Cole and Mia, waiting for her at the altar. She wore a champagne-colored gown with subtle gold accents that caught the candlelight. Her blonde hair fell in soft waves around her shoulders. She carried a simple bouquet of white roses and daisies, Sarah's favorite flower, a choice that had made Martha cry when she learned about it. Cole forgot how to breathe. Mia did not. She broke formation immediately, running toward Victoria and grabbing her hand. "I am walking you the rest of the way," she announced, "because you do not have anyone else and I want to." Victoria's composure cracked, tears spilling down her cheeks even as she smiled. "Thank you, sweetheart." They walked the final steps together, the little girl and the woman who had become her second mother, and Cole thought his heart might actually burst. The ceremony was simple. A friend of Cole's from his engineering days had gotten ordained online specifically for this purpose. He spoke about love and second chances and the unexpected ways that families could form. Then it was time for vows. Cole went first. Victoria, I spent 2 years believing I had already had my one great love, that my story was over, that the best I could hope for was to survive until Mia was grown. He paused, his voice thick. But then a little girl asked a beautiful woman to kiss me at midnight. And you did. Not because you had to, not because it was expected, but because you understood that sometimes the bravest thing we can do is let ourselves be vulnerable. Victoria was crying openly now. You did not fix me. You did not save me. You simply stood beside me while I remembered how to live. And that is what I promised to do for you. To stand beside you. Through every storm, every blizzard, every power outage. Through every board meeting and every rocket launch and every burned dinner. That got a laugh from the guests. I love you. Today, tomorrow, always. Not instead of. Also, Victoria took a shaky breath. Come out, Cole. I built an empire because I thought success would fill the emptiness inside me. I worked 80-hour weeks because I was convinced that if I stopped moving, I would have to face how alone I really was. She glanced at Mia, who was watching with rapt attention. And then I met a man who gave up everything the world said should matter so he could be present for his daughter. A man who chose love over ambition, presence over success, family over everything else. She turned back to Cole. You saw me crying on my office floor, and you did not look away. You held my hand while I fell apart, and you helped me put myself back together. You showed me that vulnerability is not weakness. That being seen is not something to fear. Her voice broke. I promised to be present, to be real, to be the mother Mia deserves and the wife you deserve. I promise to build a life that means something beyond stock prices and earnings reports. I love you both more than any empire, and that is finally enough. The officiant smiled. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. Cole pulled Victoria into his arms and kissed her as the clock struck midnight, exactly 2 years to the moment since their first kiss in this very building. Around them, the guests cheered. Fireworks exploded in the distance. Mia jumped up and down, clapping her hands, and in that perfect moment, Cole felt Sarah's presence one last time, a gentle warmth that seemed to whisper, "You did it. You chose to live. I am so proud of you. I love you," he whispered against Victoria's lips. "I love you too," she whispered back. And then Mia barreled into them both, wrapping her arms around their legs. "We are officially a family now." "Yes, we are, baby," Cole said, lifting her up so she could be part of the embrace. "Yes, we are." The first dance was to Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Victoria had insisted on it. "This is the song I sang to Mia," she explained. "It is the song that changed everything." Cole led Victoria across the floor, their movement slow and unhurried. Halfway through, Mia ran out and joined them, squeezing between them so they swayed as a trio. Around them, guests wiped tears from their eyes. Martha stood near the edge of the dance floor, a bittersweet smile on her face. Mark had his arm around her shoulders. "Sarah would have loved this," Martha whispered. "She would have," Mark agreed. "She would have loved Victoria." Martha nodded. "I think she sent her to them. I really do." The song ended and the party continued. There was dancing and laughter and too much champagne. There were speeches that made everyone cry. There were toasts to the future and tributes to the past. And when the night finally wound down, when the guests had gone and the cleanup crews had begun their work, Cole and Victoria and Mia stood at the same window where everything had started. "Look," Mia said, pointing outside. "It is snowing again." Sure enough, soft flakes were beginning to fall, dusting the city in white. "Our first snow as a married family," Victoria said, squeezing Cole's hand. "The first of many," Cole replied. He looked at his wife, This woman who had transformed from an untouchable CEO into the heart of his family. He looked at his daughter, who had grown so much in the past 2 years, who had learned that loving someone new did not mean forgetting someone gone. "Thank you," he said softly, for what Victoria asked, for staying, for choosing us, for teaching me that the story was not over. Victoria leaned her head against his shoulder. "Thank you for showing me what the story could be." Outside, the snow fell gently on Manhattan. Inside, a family held each other close and watched. The 47th floor was decorated for celebration again. It had become a tradition New Year's Eve at Hayes Tower, the place where everything had begun 5 years ago. But tonight felt different, fuller, louder. Mia, now 10 years old, stood by the window showing her baby brother how to hold a sparkler. Thomas, 18 months old with Cole's brown hair and Victoria's blue eyes, watched with wide-eyed wonder as the light danced in the darkness. "Be careful with him," Cole called from across the room. "I am being very careful, Daddy. I am an expert sparkler holder now." Victoria appeared beside Cole, her hand resting on her rounded belly. Their third child, a daughter, was due in the spring. "How are you feeling?" Cole asked. "Like I am carrying a bowling ball that kicks," Victoria replied. "But otherwise wonderful." Cole wrapped his arm around her, pulling her close. 5 years ago, he had been a grieving widower mopping floors. Now he was a husband, a father of 3, the owner of a small but thriving business building custom model rockets for children. The company had started as a hobby, something he did with Mia on weekends. But word had spread. Orders had come in. Victoria had invested as a silent partner, insisting that she believed in his dream as much as he had always believed in hers. Now, Wright Family Rockets, named for the pioneers of flight rather than Victoria's company, shipped custom rockets to children across the country. Each one came with a personalized note from Cole and a star chart from Mia, who had appointed herself Chief Quality Control Officer. Victoria had transformed Hayes Enterprises, too. The company now led the industry in employee satisfaction with flexible schedules, generous parental leave, and an on-site childcare center that Mia had helped design, and the stock price had only gone up. It turns out that happy employees are productive employees, Victoria had told her board. Who knew? Mia thrives top of her class junior astronaut program, happy and secure. She still has a picture of Sarah on her nightstand, but now there is one of Tori Mom next to it. She never had to choose. She got to love them both. Midnight approaching again. Thomas is asleep on Cole's chest. Mia is counting down with the TV. Victoria leans against Cole, his free arm around her. Cole thinks about that blizzard 5 years ago, how he had been so certain his life was over, how wrong he was. 10, 9, 8, Mia shouts. "Remember when Miss Victoria kissed Daddy because I asked?" 5, 4, 3, Victoria smiles. "Best decision I ever made." 2, 1, Happy New Year. They kiss warm, familiar home. Thomas stirs, makes a sleepy sound, settles back down. Mia hugs them all at once. Cole whispers against Victoria's hair. "Thank you for staying through the storm." Victoria whispers back, "Thank you for showing me what was on the other side." Outside, snow begins to fall again. But this time, they are exactly where they want to be. Together. Forever. Home. Friends. If this story touched your heart the way it touched mine, if it reminded you that sometimes life's darkest blizzards lead us to our brightest beginnings, please do not just watch and walk away. Hit that subscribe button and join our channel family for more heartwarming tales that celebrate second chances and unexpected love. Drop a comment below and tell us what unexpected blessing has changed your life. What storm led you to something beautiful you never saw coming? Share this story with someone who needs to remember that love can find us when we least expect it, even trapped in a building on New Year's Eve, even when we have given up on happiness, even when we are convinced that our best days are behind us. And remember, this Cole Harrison was a single father who thought his story was over. Victoria Hayes was a CEO who thought she was incapable of love, and a 6-year-old girl who asked a stranger to kiss her daddy at midnight, brought them all together. Sometimes the family we need is the one we never knew we were looking for. Sometimes the love we deserve finds us in the most unexpected places. Sometimes all it takes is one moment of kindness, one act of courage, one willingness to be vulnerable with a stranger in the darkness. From all of us here, Happy New Year. No matter what time of year you are watching this, may you find your own midnight miracle. May you find your way through every storm. May you discover that your story is not over, that the best chapters might still be waiting to be written. We will see you in the next story.